good question. And there's lots of things that will be impacted by this new ruling. Number one is um, to be able to qualify a patient for ventilation, there's going to be more legwork that has to happen. You're going to have to change your policy on how you qualify patients. Really need to be looking at understanding the NCD and trying to figure out some of the mechanics of how that works, which we're all trying to decipher right now. But how do you get a patient directly to a RAD or directly to a ventilator? And then what's the step down approach if you go from a RAD to a RAD with RAD with backup rate to a RAD without backup rate? So there's lots of things to take into consideration. It's going to open the door for more patients on RADs, and it's going to close the door somewhat on some of those patients for ventilation. So it's definitely going to affect the qualification process. And then the next part of that is the operational process. So if you don't have modems, you got to put modems on every device. You cannot put out an unconnected device at this point, because if you do, in 6 months from now, you're going to be going to the home every month to do a download would be the only way you can show compliance. So you got to have a modem. If you're not doing modems, then you got to start today, right now. And the next part is the operational part of how do you document and track data, and how are you managing compliance? A lot of companies out there don't have a great structure for managing ongoing compliance, or really managing that follow-up process of making sure the patient is seeing their physician. Now, the physician visit does not have to be a face-to-face, so it can be telemedicine. And so there's some caveats in there that you really need to pay attention to. But the biggest part of how it's going to affect your business is going to be the ongoing management of the patient, right? And so a lot of companies have gone to quarterly visits, biannual visits. There's no visit schedule that's in the NCD, but what it does dictate is that compliance piece. And that is key that we've never really seen in the industry before, is that you got to have compliance for every month that you bill after that initial period. Whether it's RAD device or it's a ventilator, you've got to have compliance data. And so obviously they're not going to be checking every single patient every single month, but if you get audited or when you get audited, you're going to need that data documented. And if you didn't get them compliant for the month, then you can't bill for that month, which means that you're going to have to stay on top of that, or you're going to have to hire somebody to stay on top of that, like what we do. And so the day-to-day operations piece, the biggest hurdle, I think, is the qualifications will be, it'll just be a process to redo your qualifications. But the biggest hurdle operationally is, how do you manage this long term? How do you track compliance? And how do you match that up to billing to make sure that you have compliance data before you bill for that patient each month?